Welcome back, folks. This is Suave, and today we're going to be doing a deck profile video. This is for the mono red Zoro leader from the Romance Dawn boosters set. This is a deck that I've kind of been tinkering around with ever since the set has been fully released, and right now I'm really comfortable with where this build is at, and it's actually really powerful and has been giving me a lot of good results lately. So let's go ahead and dive in and see what this is all about. So without further ado, let's begin. Before we begin the video, I want to give a huge shout out to my boy Agung, aka Flash Freeze, over on Discord. We were talking a couple nights ago, and I was giving him some pointers and some advice and showing him my deck list for the Zoro and seeing how it plays out in action. And then he went ahead and took this deck list. Not only did he take it, he modified it a little bit, maybe changed up one or two cards, brought it over to his local meta. Not only did he see some improvements with his play, but he actually got first place over on the local meta right there. And so congratulations over to Agung getting first place with that Zoro deck list, giving this deck list that little final seal of approval. With that, let's go ahead and start the deck profile. Alright, let's go ahead and start things off. We have our leader card. This is Zoro for mono red, 5000 power, 5 life, pretty standard stats. When he has one Dawn attached to him on your turn only, all your characters gain plus 1000 power. Pretty good ability, especially if you can swarm the board with a lot of cheap characters. Here we're going to start off with Otama. We have 3 copies of Otama. She's a really awesome card, plus 2000 counter, and when you play her, she gives one of your opponent's characters minus 2000 power for that turn. Really good ability for being able to control the board, and also having plus 2000 counter as an option is always great. Next up we have starter deck Nami. We only have 2 copies of her. Once per turn, she's on your turn, you're able to give one of your leader or one of your characters one rested Dawn card. Pretty good efficiency with her. She's not really necessary in order to be able to win with this deck. I would say that when you see more than one copy of her throughout the game, you're not really that satisfied. You'd rather draw into some other powerful cards. That's why we only have her at 2 copies for now. At least that's the number that I was satisfied with. We have our starter deck Tony Chopper. He's just a standard 1 cost blocker, 1000 power, nothing too crazy there, but he's really good at keeping our characters alive for another turn. Next up we have the Romance Dawn version of Nami from the booster set. This is 1 cost for 2000 power. 4 copies of her. She is just a staple whenever you're running Straw Hat characters in any deck. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal 1 Straw Hat crew type card other than Nami herself, and add it to your hand. Then place the remaining cards at the bottom of your deck in any order. So basically she recycles and replaces herself. The majority of this deck is all Straw Hat crew. There's only a few exceptions, but for the most part you're not going to really whiff when you're playing her. So chances are you're going to be able to grab whatever card you want within those 5 cards, and it's going to be very beneficial. Add another card to your hand with her, so you're not necessarily losing down on your hand size when you play her. All around she's just a really good card. Usopp is a 2 cost for 3000 power. This is the starter deck, this is the booster set Usopp, and when he has 1 Dawn attached to him on your turn, once per turn, after your opponent activates an event, you get to draw a card. 4 copies of him is pretty much mandatory when you're running mono red, because mono red does not have any raw draw power. Mono red just has recycling to be able to replace themselves when it comes to gaining more cards. This is the only raw draw power that red has, and it's very easy to actually telegraph when your opponent has an event available in their hand and they're going to use it as a counter. You just look at the opponent's field. If they have an active Dawn on their field on your turn, chances are that they're going to have a counter that they want to play. That's when you either play Usopp, or if you already have Usopp on your field, then you go ahead and put the 1 Dawn on him, go ahead and start attacking, and then draw your cards with his ability. Next up we have Monkey D. Luffy, the super rare, 2 for 3000 power. When he has 2 Dawns attached to him, he cannot be KO'd when battling strike attribute characters. Pretty decent ability, but he gets KO'd by leader attacks instantly, so that's not really the effect that we're using him for. It's this main effect once per turn, gift this character up to 2 rested Dawn cards. So as a 2 cost character, you just give him rested dawns, meaning the dawns that have already been used up for some other purpose. He will then be able to collect those rested dawns and boost himself up to 5,000 power, which is enough power to threaten the leader. And if you have Zoro as a leader card, this is a 2 cost for 6,000 power. Very powerful card here. If you just put one more dawn on him for 7,000 power, now your opponent has to commit a plus 2,000 counter and another counter card as well. So you're really putting a lot of pressure on your opponent with this one specific character card. It's a lot for just investing 2 dawn and attacking in the future. So easily 4 times copies of Monkey D. Luffy. Nico Robin, 4 copies of her. She's a 3 cost for 4,000 power. When she has 1 dawn attached to her, she gets to KO one of your opponent's characters with a power of 3,000 or less. A very significant card, very extremely versatile card, especially if you combo her with Otama. If you can get Otama on as well on the same turn that you're playing Robin, you get to KO a character that has 5,000 power, reduce it down to 3,000 power, then use Robin to attack and then KO that character. Very good combo. Even if you don't have that combo, just being able to KO a very annoying blocker or some other support unit that has very low attack power without having to attack it directly, very good. So you can just attack the leader with Nico Robin, having the +1 dawn on her, and then also having the one dawn boosted on from Zoro makes her a 6,000 power threat to the leader, and then you're also going to be KOing a very low power character. So 4 times of her. She has +1,000 counter on her, so she's not dead in your hand. Very good to have. Uta is one of my personal favorites right here. 4 cost for 4,000 power, no counter. However, on play, return up to one of your red characters other than Uta that costs 3 or less from your trash and add it to your hand. So if we're going to take a look at our deck here, pretty much all this right here, all the way up to Zoro, is eligible to be grabbed from your discard pile and brought up to your hand. So you can either bring a Rush Zoro back into your hand, put a Nico Robin back into your hand to threaten the board later. Same thing with Luffy, just put another 2 cost down to threaten the board. Maybe get a 2,000 counter with Usopp or Otama, or maybe you want to fish out Otama to get the -2,000 power to combo with Robin or Jet Pistol later on. You can also grab another blocker with Uta, maybe grab Nami over here to fish, or maybe you used up the starter deck Nami as a counter, now you can bring her back to use her efficiency. Basically all these targets that Uta can grab is a really good target, and that's kind of the goal of this deck, is to make sure that every single card in here is good. And not only good, but they synergize really well with each other. So Uta has a vast majority of options, giving you that flexibility of cards that have been KO'd or that you use as counters, and just bringing them back into your hand and playing them and putting more pressure on the board for you. So Uta, easily one of the MVPs of this deck. The only unfortunate part is that she is a little costly, being at 4 cost and with no counter. So that's kind of why I reduced her down to 4 copies. There was too many times where I was having maybe 2 or 3 Utas at a time, just from drawing it from my life and then drawing it from my deck, and then it was just having too many non-counters in my hand with Uta. So I did reduce her down to 3, only because if she was a 3 cost, and hands down to put 4 on her, but because she is a 4 cost, it's a little bit costly to invest in, and then also to play whatever it is that you grabbed from her. So you'd have to be at nearly 10 dawn or more in order to be able to have some defense up and also use her. But regardless, having another card in your hand, really good right there. Zoro, 3 cost for 5,000. He is the super rare. Zoro has Rush, easily one of the most powerful cards in the booster set. That's why he costs so much right now in the secondary market. No matter who you're playing, mono red, red green, you're going to be wanting 4 copies of Zoro, because Zoro is just so good. Having to only spend 3 to get a 5,000 rush body out there to either control the board or just put more pressure on your opponent's leader so that they have to make more decisions when it comes to countering or being able to take more life. Zoro is just really good all around. Brook is a 4 cost for 5,000 power. When he has 1 dawn attached to him, while he's attacking, up to 2 of your opponent's characters gain -2,000 power for this turn. This is a really good card, only because right now there is a lot of heavy characters in the meta, especially that 8-cost kid from green. Brook is going to be able to put a lot of pressure not only to the big blockers, like we have Queen, we have Law, and then we have the 8-cost kid that's 8,000 power. Some people are even playing the 7-cost kid, which is a 7,000 blocker. So being able to just reduce their power down so that your cheaper characters can actually have a fighting chance at putting pressure on your leader, and then your opponent's leader, then your opponent has to make those tough decisions as to whether or not it's really worth blocking with their characters. Now that they have 2,000 less power, they have to spend either more counters to keep them alive or just trash them. And so it's just all around really good to have Brook. He is a little slow because he is a 4 cost for 5,000 power, but being at 4 cost makes him a little safer to some of the removal effects that are out there. On top of that, Brook is just really good all around, having a plus 1,000 counter when he has 1 Dawn attached to him. And then with Zoro, when he does attack, he's going to be attacking for 7,000 and then simultaneously giving minus 2,000 to 2 other characters. So even if it's not like a blocker, if it's like a big rested character, you can give them minus 2,000 power while simultaneously attacking for 7,000. So really good all around card here for Brook. Oh, and he also does combo with both Jet Pistol and Robin, so that's why we have 3 copies of him, because it's kind of serving the same purpose as Ultima over there as well, except he can target 2 characters. So we have Monkey D. Luffy, the Rush character, 5 cost for 6,000 power. We only have 2 copies of this. He is a very powerful card. However, this isn't the starter deck Luffy, where you get to have starter deck Luffy and starter deck Nami, put 2 Rested Dawn on him. Now you have a 5 cost for 8,000. It doesn't really work that way when you have Zoro around. You have to pay the 5 to bring Luffy out. Then you have to invest more Dawn on him if you want to make his ability active, so that when he attacks you get to ignore blockers. Most of the time you're just playing you're just playing this Rush Luffy in order to have that 6,000 power rush. Other than that, he's mostly not really there for the ability. If you can afford his ability when you have 10 Dawn, then that's great, but otherwise you're just using him for his rush. Next up we have Shanks. So Shanks is our 9 cost secret rare. We only have 1 copy of him. He doesn't really synergize with anyone in this deck because he does not have the Straw Hat Crew trait, but he's there for that late game pressure. As you can see with the rest of the deck, it is a low cost curve deck, and that's kind of what we have to deal with when we're playing mono red. We're playing a lot of cheap characters. We're trying to synergize our value together. When you want that late game pressure, you want to be able to have that Shanks, but you don't want to have too many Shanks in your hand. Just 1 copy of him is good enough. He's not going to be in every game, but when you do draw into him and he is there for the late game power, he is going to put a lot of pressure on your opponent. Your opponent's going to either want to invest a lot of Dawn just to be able to get rid of him, or he's going to have to ignore Shanks, and then Shanks is going to be a 10,000 power body that's going to be constantly either clearing the board for you or going for the win. Radical Beam, 1 cost. It is a 3 of in this deck. Radical Beam is one of those really good defensive cards where you're always almost going to be at 2 life at the end of the day. So when you have Radical Beam, it's almost always going to be a plus 4,000 for 1 cost. Pretty simple, straightforward at that. Even at worst, it's a 1 Dawn for plus 2,000. Most of the time people are either attacking for 1 or 2 more on top of your character. So Radical Beam is just a really good all-around defensive card. We have 4 copies of Sabaody Events. This is another staple. You get to look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal 1 Straw Hat type character, and add it to your hand. So it's another card that recycles and gives you options to look for a character that's going to benefit you for the time being whenever you're playing it. It does have the trigger that you get to play in the main effect, so you're really happy if you see this coming off from your life, because it's basically for free and you're adding another card to your hand. We do have 1 copy of Diablo Jambe. Diablo Jambe lets you ignore blocker characters as long as you just play this on a Straw Hat Crew character, which is the majority of this deck. So it's a really good all around. We only have 1 copy of this because it is a bit of a tech choice, just because you're not always going to be in that situation if you're controlling the board right, but in some cases you might be in a winning situation, but there might be like 1 or 2 blockers and you just have 1 really good character out on the field. And so Diablo Jambe is just that 1 extra little insurance that you have in case you really need it. Red Hawk. So Red Hawk is kind of an interesting one. I only have one copy of this. In my experience with Red Hawk, so let's just go ahead and read the effect. Your leader up to one of your characters gains plus 4,000 power for the duration of this battle. Then KO one of your opponent's characters with 4,000 power or less. When it triggers, your opponent's leader or one of their characters loses 10,000 power for the duration of the turn. So really good effect all around. On paper, it's really good. However, when your opponent sees that you play Red Hawk, they're kind of already geared towards expecting it again. So if they see a lot of active Dawn on your side of the field, they're going to kind of invest some Dawn in some of their 4,000, 3,000 power characters in order to work around and not be able to get KO'd by Red Hawk. However, you could still probably target like a cheap blocker or two. In most cases, I wasn't really too much of a fan of being able to pay two Dawn in order to get plus 4,000. Sometimes I'd get the KO effect, sometimes I wouldn't, depending on whether or not my opponent is playing around it. So I just have it as a one time, just because it does catch some people by surprise when I do play it that one turn. Round Table. Round Table is a tech choice as well. 4 cost, minus 10,000 power to a character for the rest of the turn. So this is mostly just going to be for those really big threats like the Kaidos, the 8 cost kids, even maybe in against blue decks where they have maybe like a 7 or 8,000 power character out there. It's mostly just there to help you win the pressure on the board, so that you're constantly having board presence. It's not always going to be the most ideal thing, but it is there in case there is that one big threat that you just don't want to deal with anymore, and then you just play this and then continue on with the rest of the aggression. Then you have 3 copies of Jet Pistol. Jet Pistol is a really good card where you're going to be able to immediately KO anything that has a power of 6,000 or less. Like we saw earlier with Brook and Otama giving minus 2,000 power to any character. You have a lot of flexibility with being able to KO a lot of characters that your opponent has on the field. Even as a trigger, you get to play this for free. So you're happy to see this as a trigger. You're not too happy to have too many of these in your hand. I had too many occasions where I would have like 2 copies of this, and then my opponent would only have like maybe a 3,000 or 4,000 power character, but they weren't too much of a threat, so I didn't really see the need to play Jet Pistol at the time. So it clogs up your hand a little bit. That's why I have it as a 3 of in this deck. Be sure to look out for a future gameplay video that I'm going to be releasing later on, so that you can see how this deck plays out against some of the other decks that are out there. And hopefully you enjoyed this deck profile video. Let me know if you enjoyed this deck, if you start playing it yourself. Post your comments down below. Let me know what you think about this deck profile. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like and subscribe. It's going to help me out a lot, and you're going to be able to enjoy more content like this in the near future. So with that being said, I will see you all next time. Bye everyone.